As I drew farther and farther from the city, it began to hit me. I was out of my mind. Where I should have been was in my cozy little apartment overlooking the bay and writing that piece for Pacific Monthly. But no, I had to acquaint myself with all the wonders of the great outdoors. And why was I headed this way? Because of a phone call. A phone call from a man I hadn't seen in over 20 years. A man I wasn't sure I liked anymore. So why was I going? Well, maybe it was the sound of fear in his voice. A strange sound, because to my knowledge, Chase Prescott had never feared anyone or anything in his entire life. Had he changed so much? I had to find out, and not just for myself. My daddy used to say that curiosity'd be the death of me. In this case, he was almost right. Inside the next 72 hours, Death and I would become only too well acquainted. Unlike a cat, however, I had only one life to sacrifice for my curious nature.
From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Emily Howey. I'm a reference librarian in the main reading room, Humanities and Social Sciences Division of the Library of Congress. I want to welcome you to our wonderful program this afternoon featuring mystery writer Carolyn Hart. Ms. Hart is with us today to talk about why she writes mysteries, the relevance of mysteries in our literature and culture, and her latest books. If you will permit me to relate one more personal note about Carolyn. Our day together at the National Book Festival was just such a treat for me. But before the end of the day, Carolyn had said to me, "Emily, I know that you could write a mystery. Just think about the setting where you work and all of the incredible materials that you have access to. Just imagine that a patron comes up to the reference desk one day and you help that person with a very intriguing question, and then the next day you see in the newspaper that this person has been murdered." Later in the day, after telling Carolyn about Ask a Librarian, our Ask a Librarian service, which is our electronic reference service that we offer now at the Library of Congress, she immediately said, "What a great title, The Ask a Librarian Murder." So you can see, if I ever do write that mystery, I will have the best mentor that anyone could possibly have. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Carolyn Hart.
There were two kinds of mysteries. The American mystery was a hard-boiled private eye written by American men with male protagonists. The traditional mystery, which is what I write, was written by dead English ladies. And, and you see there's no room in that scenario for American women. But something wonderful happened, and that was in, I think, 1978 that Marcia Muller's first book was published, Edwin of the Iron Shoes. And it was the very first hard-boiled private eye book written by an American woman with a female protagonist. And she was followed very soon thereafter by Sue Grafton and Sarah Paretsky. And the effect of that was to transform publishing, because those books really sold. And if there's anything New York publishers understand, it's money. And they thought, you know, American readers are interested in books by American women. And that was what opened up the window of opportunity for writers such as myself. The Sea Island books are also intended as a celebration of wonderful mysteries of the past and present, and the mystery as a literary form. The owner of the mystery bookstore, Annie Darling, loves mysteries, and setting the series in a mystery bookstore gives me an opportunity to talk about wonderful mysteries of the past and present. Annie Darling is young, energetic, lively, and fun. Her boyfriend and later husband, Max Darling, is her easygoing companion on her adventures. Now I have told you about what kind of books I write, mysteries, and I expect that some of you, those among you who do not read mysteries, may want to know, why do you write mysteries? Why do you want to write about murder? When I am asked these questions, I know at once that the questioner doesn't read mysteries. Because murder is never the point of the mystery. Let's remember for a moment those glorious years when we were growing up and we were reading the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew. How many of you read the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew? Oh, good people. Okay. Why did we love those books? What did we find in those books? We found independence, a battle for justice, and a puzzle. Girls reading Nancy Drew found a heroine who delighted and inspired them. Nancy Drew was and is brave, honorable, fun, and gloriously independent. Boys and girls found the same qualities in Frank and Joe Hardy. We were not as brave and independent as they, but we wanted to follow their lead. And oh, what an example they set for us as they battled injustice, dishonesty, cruelty, and corruption. But the mystery offers more to us as adults, much more. There are two sharply different kinds of mysteries, the crime novel and the traditional mystery. The crime novel features heroes such as Private Eye Sam Spade or Kinsey Milhoney, and the traditional mystery features the amateur sleuth such as Miss Marple or my own Annie Darling. The crime novel is the story of the honorable woman or man who tries to remain uncorrupted in a corrupt world. The crime novel is always the story of the protagonist, not the story of the murder that is solved within those pages. These books, the Private Eye books, are about the quest for honor. Can you all hear me? Okay. Although crime novels are often described as books about the mean streets, and indeed they look at the underbelly of society, crime novels are very romantic in intent. They celebrate heroes and heroines who are willing to fight corruption, dishonesty, and fraud. My own particular love is the traditional mystery. These books once were pejoratively described as cozies by those who admire books about the mean streets. The inference was that mean street books are real and cozies are about drawing room crimes in little villages that could never happen. But as Agatha Christie brilliantly demonstrated, the traditional mystery is at the heart of our lives. In her Miss Marple books, Christie made the very point that life in a village is a microcosm of life everywhere. One does not have to live in a huge city and wander the alleyways to be acquainted with anger, jealousy, greed, and despair. The traditional mystery offers a primer in relationships. The distant mother creates a child who cannot love. A tyrannical boss engenders hatred and frustration. Slyness evokes distrust. A man who cheats on his wife or a woman who cheats on her husband cannot be trusted in any relationship. And readers, being the intelligent creatures that they are, extrapolate the lessons observed in fiction for their own use, their own lives. When readers observe the lives around them, they can see the torment of an abused wife or husband, the despair of an unloved child, the anger of a betrayed spouse, the jealousy of a less favored child, the hatred of a spurned lover. Usually, these emotional dramas do not end in murder, and in fact, they do not end. The violent emotions created by fractured relationships corrode the lives of every person involved, often forever. And this is what the traditional mystery is all about. And often the traditional mystery affords humor as well as insights. Once again, Agatha Christie comes to mind. No one ever captured the destructive power of greed any better than she did in The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. But equally, in book after book, she punctures pretension and wryly observes the human drama. In The Body in the Library, Christie notes with humor the stuffiness and class consciousness of Colonel Bantry, but she also observes with compassion how a suspicion of wrongdoing, if not resolved, could destroy his life. It is no accident that Christie has outsold every writer, living or dead. It is because her people are real. Readers recognize them at once. Oh yes, that's just like the fellow in my office. Or yes, that's just like Aunt Alice. Or the woman across the street. Or me. Truth to tell, and fortunately, most readers do not spend every waking moment trying to escape from a serial killer. Now, it's true that serial killer books have enjoyed enormous popularity. They are a very visible example of the randomness of violence today and of the ultimate separation of a human being from society. So these books respond to a definitive reality of our times. Readers want to try and contain this kind of evil. One way to contain it is to read about the vanquishment of a serial killer. Readers read mysteries because we live in an unjust world. And that's why I write mysteries. In life, evil triumphs, as Americans were reminded most painfully on 9/11. But we still want the world to be good. We want the world to be fair. We want the world to be just. So we can go together, you and I, to a magic place where goodness will always triumph, where justice is served, where wrongs are righted. We can read a mystery.